all the principal officers of our university are present, vice chancellors of other universities, provost of colleges and deans of faculties, all the heads of departments here, great students of Elizade University, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Today, Wednesday, the 4th day in the month of August, the year of the Lord 2021, is a great day indeed, particularly in the history of this school, and most especially for the Faculty of Humanities, Social and Management Sciences. We welcome all of us here, and we give glory to God that we're here, hail and hearty. May I please take an audience to give glory to God Almighty by standing up for the opening prayers. Shall we all stand? I have the singular honor to call on Dr. Dupaya Apollo, the Vice Dean and the Acting Head of the Department of Humanities.
Our Father and our God, in the name of Jesus, we thank you very much because you are our all in all. Unto you shall the guardian of your people be. We have gathered to you today, O Lord our God, not by our power or by our might, but by your grace and by your Spirit. Father, we look unto you, O God, that you take absolute control of everything we be doing here today in the name of Jesus. Amen. Eternal Father, it is the first of its kind, and we are looking up to you, King of glory, that Father, this seed in our hand, Baba, you will water it and you cause it to flourish in the name of the Lord Jesus. We thank you for everything that has been put together by your power and by your enablement, even to make this day a reality. We return our praise to you in the name of Jesus. The blessings that you have prepared for each and every one of us for attending this program, Baba, we will not miss in the name of Jesus. Father, at the end of it all, we will give glory to your name. We thank you for our friends who have come from far and near. We ask, oh God, that you bless them in return in the name of Jesus. Thank you for Elizade University. Thank you for what you are doing in this place. And we return our praise to you. In Jesus' mighty name, we have prayed with thanksgiving.
For those of us who are very much conversant with protocol, local, state, and international, we must also respect the protocol of our country, Nigeria. And let us start from Elizade University. All items are sung standing up. Shall we please stand for Elizade anthem? day-to-day activities. The first person I would like to call. Of course, is the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities, Social and Management Sciences. For those of us who do not know, he had several positions before, particularly in Obafemi Awolowo University. No, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry. It's going to be the last person I will call again. A former member of Senate of Agriculture University, Obafemi Awolowo University. A member of the University Governing Council, the chairman, Ceremonials Committee of Obafemi Awolowo University, the chairman, Security Committee of the University. Some people call it Athletic Faculty, but his real name is Professor Saheed Aderinto. Thank you. As the Dean of the Faculty, we will welcome other guests to the table. The next person I would like to call here, Vice Grace is a chartered accountant of several years standing. And as far as this university is concerned, is the Honorable Minister of Finance. I'm talking of Elder Dr. Shebo Agegwe, Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to call on the custodian of the books and knowledge in this university. Is a man of no standing, and that is Dr. Christopher Pico. Please come to the so the other listen, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to call the guest speaker for today, Prof Saheed Aderinto. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the next person I want to call is your university administrator, a role model for me, my mentor, sound, solid and articulate. He's a man who has risen to the ranks to become the deputy registrar in one of the second generation universities. He's tall, proud, handsome and attractive. A man that finds 1,000 times inspiring. In actual fact, he is a good advertisement of the continent of Africa. I'm talking of the registrar of the university. Okay. But for those of us who don't know him really, somebody said we'll find out for him. But he's a distinguished. He has been a member of council of University of Lagos. He's been a director of Center for Distance Education, University of Lagos. And he has received the title of Baba Way of the present generation. Baba Way of the present generation is somebody who has been the dean of the student affairs. And if you can manage students affairs successfully from different faculties and from different family backgrounds, then that person can be a successful vice chancellor. He has also been the main faculty of science, University of Lagos. He has gone to manage a highly reputable university in Ondo Town, Western University of Science and Technology, Ondo. Easygoing, unassuming, decent and diligent in approach, scholar of international standing, a researcher by excellence, a professor of professor. May I ask the gathering to please stand and be standing as I call on Professor Saheed Aderinto, the Vice Chancellor in this university. I am not taking that applause. Thank you very much, Mr. And I told that to my brother, I'm a trained protocol person. You don't call the media first and you'll be standing up for people. It's supposed to be the other way around. And for those of us who are Yorubas, they say, Ebuna, no playing ballet. No, we are not in the ballet here. We are in the Aramoki, Elizade University. Once again, put your hands together for the question. There were the immediate past Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic and Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration of Obafemi Awolowo University. Yesterday, the entire university management did the send-off ceremony. Professor Christopher Aderinto. That was the great Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration of Obafemi, and of course, his two brothers, the immediate past Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Professor Simeon Bamere. Mr. Vice Chancellor with the proclamation, I like him and I admire him. But I always thank God, I don't want to be in care of two professionals. If you are in care of a medical doctor, who is yourself. If you are in care of warders, you know what that means. We have here a former provost, College of Health Sciences of Obafemi Awolowo University, Nigeria. Who by the grace of God, as a Vice Chancellor, University of Medical Sciences of the Professor Shepherd Pharmacy. He's so humble and unassuming. I don't know how you give people protection for somebody that is as quiet as me. And of course, we have the Vice Chancellor of Humanities University, Professor Akimo, represented by Professor Oloyede. I have there former acting Vice Chancellor of Elizade University, Professor Saheed Aderinto. I also have there a former Vice Chancellor at the University of Oyo. Is there? Let me say that we shall be doing this introduction in faces because I don't like to sit for me. But permit me to recognize the names of faculties who are there. I have the name of postgraduate school Professor Joseph Adeboye. The name faculty of Basic and Applied Sciences Professor Tobias Ashibiru. The name faculty of Engineering Professor Benjamin Massive. And of course, the main faculty of law, Professor Fumi Aderinto. I have the former director of ICT in Elizade University, Professor Awolowo. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to readjust this program slightly to suit the protocol of the moment. Number 4 will come to number 5, and number 5 will come to number 4. To welcome all of us here formally to this program, organized by his faculty, under the leadership of the Vice Chancellor of his university, Papa Nicola Babayo Pablo, to come to this to formally welcome all of us here.
And other principal officers of Elizade University, the registrar, Chief Omoloju Aderinto, the bossers, Dr. Bishop, Dr. Super Aderinto. Vice Chancellor of Federal University present, Professor Saheed Aderinto, Professor Elizade, Professor Sheldon Patrice, Professor Elizade, represented by Professor Saheed Aderinto. This is of faculties, Faculty of Physical and Sciences, Professor Aderinto, of Engineering, Master of Law, Aderinto, and then the Chief of Police, Professor Aderinto. Deans of faculties of other universities present, all the directors present, both from here, this university and elsewhere. I want to particularly single out Professor Saheed from the University of Lagos, who is the director of Nigeria Channel. All other professors present, particularly Professor Theodos Fadayobi, my younger in the university, and then Professor Moses Ajiwale of Banola, heads and coordinators of the department present, all the staff and students in the Faculty of Humanities, Social and Management Sciences present, gentlemen of the press in particular, Dr. Samuel Biyemi. Biyemi is the owner and an editor of the Nigerian News Direct, gentlemen of the press. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the 2021 edition in our annual faculty guest lecture series. As you are all aware, the theme of this year's lecture is research and scholarship in the humanities, social and management sciences in the digital age. This is a paramount subject matter because research and scholarship are the fundamental businesses of the academia. But really, is there any distinction between research and scholarship? Professor Saheed Aderinto will provide an answer to this question in the course of today's lecture. It, however, suffices to say that the topic of today's lecture is into one of the strategic goals and visions of Elizade University in the Professor Amon leadership dispensation, which is to foster seriousness in academic delivery and research. As those of us in the knowledge industry are all aware, research is one of the three main functions of the university over time and space. Research does not only serve to expand the frontier of knowledge, it is also a major driver of technological and socio-economic development of human societies. This is why, as a matter of necessity, universities the world over engage in the conduct of research. Of relevance is also the fact that the quality of research conducted in the university, as attested to by its impact as agent of development and human progress, is one of the major hallmarks of ranking universities. This is one of the reasons why universities pay adequate attention to research and make available the most modern and up-to-date facilities in support of research and scholarship, particularly in the digital age, with its emerging technologies for data generation, collection, and analysis. The impact of digitalized technology on the conduct and driving of cutting-edge research and scholarship in the field of humanities, social and management sciences, in a knowledge-driven economy cannot be emphasized. Regards to promote pragmatic approaches in researches and scholarships, here towards making significant contribution in the global intellectual space rests mainly on the development of digitalized technology. In our contemporary time, any researcher who wants to deepen the use of our scholarship with a view to becoming globally visible must necessarily embrace digitized technology in the frontier of knowledge. Interestingly enough, the world of research has moved from the analog styles and approaches in conducting researches to the development of digitized technology in an exponential manner. Digital tools and other research technologies are fast becoming a new trend and new normal in discovering, gathering, organizing information, and analyzing data in order to produce coherent research reports. Digitized technology now endears researchers in the humanities, social management, sciences disciplines to collaborate widely and efficiently across borders and space. The depth and quality of internationalism is constantly being entrenched via the instrumentality of digitized technology in the ever-dynamic, research-driven world. Even though here at Elizade University, deliberate efforts are particularly made to encourage all academic staff and students in humanities, social and management sciences to engage in research-oriented research and scholarship activities in their areas of specialization, especially those in line with the university priorities and which are relevant to national needs, with the aim to establish a vibrant research and scholarship culture which can exert substantial and sustainable impact on the quality of the university's output. Progress, however, appears to be slow. This has necessitated the need to look inwards on our research and scholarship activities and to see how we can, moving forward, identify ways of doing things better so as to achieve better results. This was the basis of the topic of today's lecture. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm particularly delighted that Professor Aderinto, an established university historian and researcher, an elephant on the editorial board of numerous academic journals, a prolific writer, and globally recognized speaker with research experiences across a significant number of international organizations, and a Nigerian and educated character and growth is there to do justice to the topic. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit comfortably as later on after the particular opening remark, we listen to Professor Aderinto's scholarly delivery of this lecture. I wish you all an inspiring interaction. Thank you.
We can do much better. Have a discussion of coming to the school and met some men of the underworld, robbing a bank in Milan. In the process, the youngster was shot and he died. Due respect to the Vice Chancellor on this gathering, may I please take an indulgence to please give honor to a departed colleague as we stand to observe a minute silence for the repose of his soul. May the James soul of Bome Afuye rest in perfect peace. We may be seated. Thank you very much. That will formally give opening remarks of this international program is the father of all here, a man whose shoulders are broad enough to accommodate all of us, our niceties and excesses, and we will still be smiling. Having managed a university before successfully, and to whom much is given, much is expected, he has been assigned again to lead this university. And maybe after that, It may also be assigned by Nigerian or international organization to lead the educational institution. I'm talking of the Vice Chancellor, welcoming you to this program, sir, Professor Olukayode Apo.
I would have wanted to dwell on the existing protocol, but that would be a grave excuse. Consequently, let me just quickly recognize a number of dignitaries that are here with us. First and foremost, the Vice Chancellor of University of Medical Sciences of Ondo, Professor Shegun Fatusi. To him that since he assumed office, I've not been able to go and visit. But I hope he's going to accept that technology, but also promise that we will see me very soon. So the Vice Chancellor of the University is safely represented by Professor Aderinto. You're welcome. Let me quickly recognize the Abba that handed over to me at Elizade University, and that's Professor Theophilus Padai. I also have the former Vice Chancellor of Atlanta University here, Professor Aderinto. Then I have the Deputy Vice Chancellor from the University of Ife, that I now called Professor Agila DBC Admin, I welcome sir. And Professor Tamire DBC Akash, I welcome sir. Before I go on, you will notice that there is a thorough invasion. And we used to hear that Ife is great, but we have not been told that it is the greatest. Because that means it presupposes that we have the greatest. And that is going to be conferred on Elizade University. It's always our prayer that our children should be greater than we are. Thank you very much. So let me also use this opportunity to acknowledge the principal officers of the University Librarian are here. The deans of faculties are here. The heads of departments are here. Then the guest lecturer, Professor Saheed Aderinto. You are welcome, sir. When I was paid a course call earlier today, I mentioned to him that his visit to Elizade University is angelic. And we know angels bring good tidings. And the good tidings on the floor are that we presented several programs for accreditation. That was earlier in the year, and we have full accreditation in December. And the bulk of those programs reside in the Faculty of Humanities, Social and Management Science. In fact, one of them scored 98.something%, almost 100%. So it underscores the magnitude of work that is going on in that faculty. So on your behalf, I want to congratulate the Dean, Professor Saheed Aderinto, for a job well done. Also the Dean of Basic and Applied Sciences, Professor Bode Ashubiojo, for a job well done. And the Dean of Faculty of Law, and that's Professor Elizade, also for a job well done. We have been invited to an important lecture with a theme captioned Research and Scholarship in Humanities and management sciences in the digital age. As mentioned by the Dean, the importance of research cannot be overemphasized. In fact, research is the bedrock of development. And it's not only in the physical sciences or biological sciences that research is important. It's also important in the humanities as well as management sciences and social sciences. I could remember about a few years ago, I was involved in a competitive assessment somewhere. And they had to refer to some matrices used in assessing research, which has to do with how well cited your work is. So what was called Scopus H index was used to do a preliminary screening. And we discovered that it was only those in the physical sciences that, excel as much as those in the physical sciences. There was a petition that why should H index be used? But H index is a global matrix that's applicable to all disciplines. And it goes to show that in some disciplines, people publish in highly reputed journals, while some patronize more of the backyard journals. And that is why they are not read internationally. If you are read internationally, your H index will be so high, both on the Google Scholar and Scopus, Web of Science, and various other platforms. So I want to encourage those in humanities and management sciences that your research is as important as researches in other areas of endeavor, either engineering or physical or biological sciences. So the seminar or the lecture of today is very, very topical. And I believe the guest speaker is here loaded with information to impart some knowledge on all of us that are here to partake at this lecture or seminar. But before I take my leave, let me quickly sound a note of caution that COVID-19 is still much around with us, and it is not going very soon. That may not be good news, but everyone should take the responsibility to ensure that you are not a victim of COVID-19. And the only way is by protecting yourself and also protecting everyone around you. Ensure that you take advantage of the facilities provided in vaccines. Get vaccinated, use available drugs, prophylactic drugs that you can lay your hands on, so that we can get rid of this public health challenge. So on behalf of the faculty, I want to thank you for being part of today's event. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for clapping for me. Let me hear that of the last person. Yes, thank you very much. All courtesies duly extended. Professor Salawu from the Department of Management and Accounting, OAU, UFM. I have a grandson to the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities, Social and Management Sciences at Elizade University. I call him a grandson because he is a product of the professors, taught by the professors, that was taught by Professor Fabio. So that's why I call him the grandson of great Fabio. I'm talking of Dr. Saheed Aderinto. And of course, for the director of Center for Gender, OAU is there, Dr. Monica Jadara. Somebody has been assigned to dig deep and do a research on him. And Elizade University has done by instructing a PhD holder to do a research to reach the citation of the guest speaker of today. I call on Dr. Aderinto to please come forward.
United States of America. He is the author of several books, journal articles, book chapters, encyclopedia articles, and book reviews that cut across several themes pertinent to African and Nigerian societies. He is the author of Animality and Colonial Subjecthood in Africa, the Human and Non-Human Creatures of Nigeria, published by the Ohio University Press. Guns and Society in Colonial Nigeria, Firearms Culture and Public Order, published by the Indiana University Press. And When Sex Threatened the State, Illicit Sexuality, Nationalism and Politics in Colonial Nigeria, 1900 to 1958, published by University of Illinois. Nigerian Studies Association Book Award Prize for the most important scholarly book on Nigeria published in English language. He has co-authored, edited, and co-edited several books which were published by Research, Palgrave, Macmillan, ABC Globe, University of Rochester Press, Cambridge Scholars Publishing, and the Hope Books. In addition, his works have appeared in leading Africanist and specialist journals, including the Canadian Journal of African Studies, Journal of Imperial and Commonwealth History, Journal of History of Sexuality, amongst others. Professor Aderinto is a scholar par excellence. He is always busy working on a research project or the other, and from him, I learned that as a researcher, one has to always be working on the research in order to be productive. He has a flair for providing with great dexterity, new perspective and insights about various human phenomena. This is demonstrated in his published books as well as his ongoing book projects and projects from documentary on the history of Fujianism. You cannot have a conversation with Professor Aderinto without learning something new from him or conceiving a new research idea. Professor Aderinto has demonstrated his passion for research through his founding of Lagos Studies Association, an international and interdisciplinary organization of academic and non-academic researchers and practitioners whose members are spread across 16 Nigerian and 160 international institutions and agencies. The LSC, among other benefits, offers its members exposure to current and trending research ideas, different platforms for national and international visibility, mentorship, refresh old ones, and acquire inspiration to embark on new areas of scholarship. The LSA Female Mentorship Program pairs female postgraduate students with senior female academic mentors from across the world and provides the students the opportunity to be mentored by senior female scholars who continually share their experience as well as scholarship and intellectual activism to ensure that the students are adequately equipped to strive for academic excellence alongside their male counterparts. As a Nigerian in diaspora, Professor Aderinto has been passionately investing in the lives of Nigerian scholars and researchers, both old and young. He has mentees in many universities in Nigeria as well as outside Nigeria. He is the mentor of many academics whose discipline cuts across several departments in the humanities and social sciences. He is always eager to read through the works of his mentees and provide relevant suggestions on how to improve their scholarly articles. He never hesitates to write top-notch reference letters when needed, no matter how short the notice may be. He's always one email away in resolving the research challenges of his mentees, which he responds to immediately. Professor Aderinto has facilitated many Nigerians at admission on full scholarship into the postgraduate program of many renowned universities in America, Canada, Israel, Switzerland, and many other developed countries of the world. Thus, when the Faculty of Humanities, Social and Management Sciences of Elizade University thought of having an academic discourse on research and scholarship in the humanities, social and management sciences in the digital age, we just knew whom to approach. As one of his mentees, I must confess that Professor Saheed Aderinto is a great asset to the academia. May I please ask that we all stand up to welcome him to this important lecture on research and scholarship in the humanities, social and management sciences in the digital age.
I've heard about this university for more than a decade. And I would also like to say that this is a beautiful campus. The scenic environment is really great. I would try to market this beautiful place to my friends. When social media began to take firm root as an alternative medium of self-expression, among other things, over 10 years ago, many academics and professionals worried about the impact of virtual spaces on their privacy. They worried on their images, and of course they were concerned that social media would have significant implications on their personality. They were concerned what some people would like to call over-revealing. That is, the chances that their non-academic life, which include their family life, their religious life, even their sexual orientation, would be exposed to the world. So the biggest concern about social media more than 10 years ago is about its implication on privacy. Many academics and professionals actually thought that they would be demystified. They thought they would be demystified, and that the respect and honor that they received from friends and colleagues would wane as a result of, again, overexposure through social media. So they prefer the first incarnation of digital communication, such as academic listservs and mailing lists, which guarantee, to some extent, intellectual freedom, anonymity, and of course, privacy. So this critique of the first incarnation of social media about 10 years ago among the academic professionals was a legitimate one. So the question of privacy, the questions of over-revealing, these are all legitimate concerns about social media over 10 years ago. Because social media is exactly what it's meant to be, right? It's supposed to be a social space, a virtual community of people connecting with old friends, people's networking for social and sexual relationship, ability to share vacation pictures, party photos, exactly why social media was initially created. However, today, any academic who claims not to be using social media must be living in a stone age. While it is permissible or possible for academics not to have a social media account, it is inexcusable for them not to use social media. Having a social media account and not using social media are two separate things. The former is having a name directly linked to your social media account, while the latter is viewing an organization's or someone's timeline for news and knowledge. The biggest news with the most profound implication for intellectual culture are now being posted first on social media, even before conventional ones. Even academics who extolled mailing lists and the listserv over social media many years ago are now finding their ways back or gradually into Facebook, into Twitter, into Instagram, directly or through proxies. Many professors and senior academics are now members of many WhatsApp groups. This did not happen a decade ago. So what has changed? To view social media sensationalism as mere amusement is to me something fundamental about people, about cultures, and about the nation state that we academics in the humanities, in the management sciences, in the social sciences that we study. It is also to lose sight of the intersections of culture and media through which they manifest. I don't have the time to watch all the episodes of Big Brother Naija, but I have 4,973 friends on my Facebook account, and maybe you know numbers of people who are following me. And through them, I'm able to keep up with all the controversies around dissident youth culture, normative sexualities, body shaming and respectability, religion and morality that the Big Brother Naija generates all the time. For a historian like me, who has published a book on children, who has published many articles on children in colonial Nigeria, not monitoring the development in Big Brother Nigeria is like committing an intellectual suicide.
This is one way through which I'm able to connect the past with the present, but of course I'm going to explain more as we proceed. Anyone who has read the Lagos Weekend, the Lagos Weekend was this magazine published by Nigerian Daily Times from the 1960s all the way to the 1980s and 1990s. Among other magazines of the 1960s, would have a serious but not a judgmental conversation about Big Brother Nigeria. From the late 1960s to the 1990s, the print media, that is the conventional print media, controlled by men, justified obscenity in the name of environment and entertainment. The Lagos Weekend newspaper or magazine, for instance, printed engrossing sexualized images of women in their front pages. I'm not a psychologist, but I think that provocating scenes of Big Brother Nigeria would have the same emotive effects as the uncensored Better Lover magazines, which teenagers of the 1990s watched. 10 years ago, a Nigerian actress called Tonto Dike, she almost got crucified for trying to turn Nollywood into Bollywood because of her body-revealing roles in movies. But today, Nigeria has its own known porn stars and of course porn website. Again, I'm trying to connect the past with the present. I'm trying to understand the differences, the transformation in how we consume knowledge, what has changed between the times of our ancestors and our own time, and now the transformation in the way we engage media, the way we conceptualize knowledge, and the way we think about the social implications, the moralistic implications of knowledge, also influence research. Again, what I'm trying to do now is to present certain observable data that everyone here is familiar with, and try to make an intellectual sense of those daily materials. A deeper excursion into the history of what many would call profanity or immorality in public media is very important here. The first Yoruba novel was not about saints like Samuel Ajayi Crowther, but about a lady called Segilola Elegberon Okolaye, translated as Segilola, endowed with fascinating eyes, the sweetheart of 1,001 men. Initially serialized into 30 chapters in a newspaper called Akedeko or Lagos Herald. That was a bilingual newspaper from 1929 to 1930, and it was later published as the first Yoruba novel. This autobiography tells the real life, quote unquote, of a popular Lagos prostitute and her men, which cut across ethnicity, social class, nationality, and of course race. Segilola exploits include getting men soakingly wet, according to her, and of course printed in a newspaper, and of course later printed in a novel published in 1931 or 1930. There is no single way of interpreting the past and the material cultures of the past, such as novels. But the popularity of this 1930 novel and some of the most incredible printing of words that looks and sounds very moral to us in 2021 reveals something really very interesting about human fascination with pleasure and of course with obscenity. Similarly, many Nigerians could not understand the sympathy that the former governor of Delta State, James Ibori, received in the social media and on the street when he was released from the UK prison in 2016. But history has always been kind to many people, including people whose actions are considered to be very problematic, like James Ibori. For instance, in addition to numerous newspaper obituaries, a Lagosian called Defonso had more than 10,000 people attending his own burial in 1923. You know what Defonso did? Defonso actually shot and killed lawyer Oromfolu Abayomi at the court premises of Tinubu Square on August 25, 1923. This appeared or would appear like a Nollywood or an Hollywood scene. So what is the story? In 1923, Defonso a bank and committed arson. After taking money, he decided to set up his business and set it up on fire. So a lawyer named Murumfoda Abayomi helped the court to establish criminality against what he did. And so now that there's evidence that what he did is criminal, what was criminal, they also brought out a gun, a pistol, and killed a lawyer in Lagos on August 25, 1923. So many people, they have also did one of the most criminal, committed one of the most criminal offenses of any heresy, murder. But of course, after killing Burumfoli, he killed himself too. Yeah, he also shot himself. But 10,000 people actually attended the burial of the Boso, even though to many people what he did was wrong. The existence of countless social networking platforms, and of course, WhatsApp groups, reminds me of the Sun newspaper that featured photos of beautiful Nigerian women and their addresses from the early 2000s. By reading the Sun newspaper, I think it was established by a politician, I can't remember, the public, regardless of their gender, of their religious affiliation, of their moral sensibilities, are automatically added to the community of men who bought the print media because it featured beautiful women. Again, what I'm trying to do is to historicize and contextualize the relationship between everyday consumption of information and how we turn all these things into knowledge. But if you buy the Sun newspaper in the 2000s, you're basically doing exactly what we do today, which is, of course, to have a WhatsApp group. The differences in the way we consume knowledge based on platforms. People who are familiar with the evolution of immoral news and information would understand the mindset that shapes the proliferation of sexually explicit social media pages. I truly don't want to be on every social media groups, I don't. But monitoring the discussion on many separatist ethnic WhatsApp groups, for example, in recent times there's an upsurge in the number of sub-ethnic nationalist groups who are apparently so many of them, IPOB and others. What being on this WhatsApp group means to me is what I'm trying to bring out from the perspective of someone who wants to be conversant with the transformation in how we harvest data and how we write new knowledge. I consider the knowledge potentials of a WhatsApp group called Professors Forum. I'm on that WhatsApp group. It's a WhatsApp group of senior academic, Nigerian-based academic. I'm in that group. And at the same time, I'm also on another group called Mary Modupe on Facebook. What they do in that WhatsApp group is what many will consider to be very stupid, things that they're not supposed to be doing, including advertising themselves, men advertising themselves to older women for social sexual networking. Now, I have referenced all these historical developments. Some of them really very provocative from all perspectives. From the perspectives of religion, from the perspective of morality, from the perspective of privacy, from the perspective of criminality. Not to simply prove that our ancestors were not saints, or that the idea of a very pristine and romantic past is problematic. But I really want to argue that the digital age, with all its problematics, and of course with all its criticism, is only a phase in the evolution of human civilization. The transformation made possible by 21st century digital culture tell us something remarkable about conflicting notions of immorality that should interest scholars. As Dr. Uga was reading my citation earlier, she mentioned some of the works I've published. This lecture today is, of course, influenced by the kinds of books I write. I write books on guns. I've published a book on guns. I have a book on animals, the history of animals. Chinua Achebe said that maybe if animals have their own historians, maybe the history of the hunt will require the hunt. We'll stop glorifying the hunt or something like that. So I'm a historian of animals. And of course, I wrote the first academic book on the history of sexuality. So the kind of work I do influence the way I see social media and its impact in creating knowledge. The digital age should not be treated as an epoch, but an episode. Now I'm drawing from this very well-respected contention or argument between historian Peter Eke and, of course, our another ancestor, Professor Aderinto, in the evolution of completing notion of instance. The transformation of social media from the old young people to the driving force of knowledge production and dissemination requires serious attention of academics. The digital humans of today, that is the humans that we encounter on all forms of social platforms, of social media platforms, they will appear to us as written in the narratives of tomorrow. The attention to digital presence should go beyond stating the obvious fact that universities and departments, professional organizations, and even publishers and libraries have Facebook accounts or Instagram or Twitter account. Rather, I want to argue that it must be framed as how digital culture connects the past with the present, shapes data analysis, problematizes the conventional definition of knowledge, and gives visibility to narratives, people, and communities which would remain obscure without a liberalizing digital space. So again, I like to connect the past with the present. I like to create a body of knowledge that starts its conversation from what is happening today, then what is way back to the past. The new way of encountering people and ideas is now challenging the old, thus creating some forms of anxiety for people who are afraid to reinvent because of the assumption that the old way is better than the new. Veteran journalists who plied their trade when printed newspapers had to be physically transported from one space to another across thousands of miles, they have a strong point when they complain about the bad grammar in digital writing. So the point of emphasis is that many established journalists are very angry that digital publishing is grammatically problematic because most of the writings are bad. Most of the news outlets there are not as good as the old ones. Yet, their critique must also consider how censorship and editorial culture of the old print media prevented creativity and limited political opposition and participation. A few days ago, I met a veteran Fuji artist named Bola Bonite. As Dr. Uga said, I'm writing a book on Fuji and also making a documentary. So I met this man who should be in his 60s. He was a popular Fuji artist in the 80s. And he's currently the chairman of Oyo State chapter of the Performing Fuji Associations of Nigeria. He told me that his career waned from the 1980s because a journalist, whose name I'm not going to mention, wrote a very bad article about him. He said that was why no one knows him today. Bola Bonite is definitely correct about how social media created and recreated stardom. And he told me categorically that if social media existed in his own days, his career would not have gone down. And he has a very strong point in this regard. A few months ago, Bola Bonite played a very powerful comeback. He played to 10,000 people watching live the birthday ceremony of a lady called Esther Abodorin, aka Esabot. For those who follow social media very well, this is one of the most problematic person on social media right now. But Bola Bonite played online and 10,000 people saw him play. It has never happened to him. Again, one of the most important implications. Now, how do we make intellectual sense of this? Social media creates new forms of what I call digital celebrities. These are new forms of people who are able to generate new ideas, new personalities, new ways of existence as a result of what social media has done today. Without social media, Bola Bonite's obscure role in Fuji wouldn't have come out, and nobody would even know that he existed in the past. The discourse of new and old media has a place in the unending debates over new and old research methodology, topics, theories, writing style, and even pedagogy. Much of this is the product of the faith that innovative ways of conducting research, writing and disseminating knowledge would obliterate the old and render old producers of knowledge irrelevant. So there's always assumption that when there's something very new, that new thing cannot be as good as the old. It's also informed by the simple logic of marketplace economy, which suggests that new markets would always drive away the old. However, the market economy does not work exactly like the knowledge production economy, even though there are a lot of similarities. This is because knowledge creation is a continuum, operating like a building block or an interlocking chain of progression than an iron gate that does not permit the flow or intercurrent of ideas. If knowledge is a continuum, the process of creating knowledge itself, which includes research methodology, writing style, conceptualizations of ideas, must also be there. So the point in emphasis is that if we now have all these digital units, people who existed not in real faces anymore, then we're going to have new means of creating knowledge, new models, new methodologies. And I'm going to talk later about new ways of also assessing intellectual credibility, which is what the Vice Chancellor was talking about in terms of the ranking. So all this new development about academic stardom, academic legitimacy, how to rank and rate intellectualism, cannot be dissociated from the broader narrative of how humans exist today. And the digital culture is one of the most important factors in how humans exist today. For instance, it is a truism that digital ethnography has transformed. There's what they call digital ethnography, right? For example, all these social media things, some of us are not just watching them, we are doing research. So digital ethnography, for most of the undergraduates, I know the professors and doctors know what I'm talking about. But for most of the graduates, digital ethnography is when you read digital content within the context of cultures, peoples, religion, ethnicity, race, dynamics, all these things that shapes how humans exist. And you're trying to make an academic sense of what you see. So digital ethnography is instead of going out to get information, you can actually write an email to people, they can respond, you can actually watch things and just conduct research digitally. That's just a kind of an elementary conceptualization of digital ethnography. So I said that it's, for instance, it's true that digital ethnography has transformed the core essence of what is known as conventional ethnography. So in conventional ethnography, we basically go out and talk to people and gather data directly from people. And of course, in the process, it has collapsed the idea of time, the idea of place, and the idea of space. Again, so that the undergraduate will understand what I'm talking about. So in the conventional ethnography, you have to be physically present, right? You have to talk directly to someone. And there is a well-defined concept of time and space. In digital ethnography, you can make a phone call, you can do a Zoom interview, and you can be doing research, not by being physically present, but by being present virtually. That is the difference between. So when we say digital ethnography shapes or problematizes the idea of time and space, it means that you don't have to be there physically anymore. Again, access to digital archival materials and photos and art exhibitions have increased the speed while also lowering the cost and logistics of doing research. But there's something very valuable about inhaling the often repugnant aroma of original document face to face. So the point in emphasis is that digital ethnography does not eliminate conventional ethnography. So the point I'm trying to make is that I'm trying to marry two forms of knowledge gathering. The first one about conventional ethnography, where you physically visit people. The second one is about digital, where you do it digitally. And so the same applies to archival materials. Today, archival materials can be downloaded from many websites across the world. That's digital sources. On the other hand, I would like to still go to the archive and smell the very repugnant aromas of old documents produced 200 years ago. The point in emphasis is that simply because social media and digital culture is new, does not necessarily going to eliminate conventional way of doing things. The senior intellectualisms that paved the way for junior intellectualism will remain very relevant at the end of time. The old, they need because of the whole. And I was going to put this into a little bit of analogy. Let's get to that point. Any critique of the digital age in African literature, full of conventional publishing of the past, inhibits literary innovation, silenced voices, and frame problematic notions of literary study. In this case, I'm making a case for the fact that we still have some intellectuals who are not convinced that literature can exist digitally. And I'm arguing that it is a truism that digital literature or digital African literature is challenging conventional conceptualization of literature. However, these digital forms are actually helped us to unsilence anybody, to bring out the creativity of people who would have to depend on a lot of gatekeeper for them with intellectual disability. Again, I'm more concerned about the transformation between the past and the present and the way the new shapes exist in their past. Today, it is easier and faster to learn about Nigeria from the Nigeria Nostalgia Project Facebook page that has about 1,000 people than sitting in a class where, a teacher basically dictates old notes to you. But this does not eliminate the need to promote quality classroom pedagogy. Again, we can have new ways of learning and capturing ideas digitally. But this model does not prevent or should never be argued against conventional academic way of learning. Virtual education has shaped the way and changed the way we actually interpret resources and other things. But at the same time, it's also problematizing the way we also transfer knowledge. So, to reduce generational transformation in knowledge production and teaching pedagogy to superior and inferior is to miss the biggest point about human material existence. The new exists because of the whole. Again, the point that I'm making now is that social media is not superior to print media. No. And the models of conducting research today is not superior to the models of the past. It's a continuum. Because a decade from now, everything we do is going to be outdated. So I'm more interested in transformation and not to put a value judgment on whether a model of the past is superior to the present. The present exists because of the past, and that is why the past has to be respected. Much of what is considered innovative today will be treated as obsolete in the next decade. The digital age in research can be equated to the Gen age in terms of the speed with which we are able to conduct research, and of course the speed we are able to share research. Yet, all eras have their own limitations. The digital age is not, of course, perfect, and the new age is probably going to do what the digital age has not done. So the digital age in knowledge production transcends or goes beyond speed with which we conduct research and share research to what actually constitutes a researchable topic. There is no field in the humanities, the sciences, and the management sciences that is not worried about these dialectics, the dialectics of relevant or irrelevant, the dialectics of what is academic or not academic, the dialectics of what is researchable or unresearchable. I don't know of any university or any department that is not contesting that, whether a topic fits a particular field. Even in some departments and institutions, some actually have topics that cannot be researched because they are out of the intellectual tradition of those departments. Critique of writing style remains important for many disciplines because it constitutes the frame through which knowledge is intelligible. For example, when an archaeologist is writing, the vocabulary, the language, the style is discernible. When a historian is writing, everything is well understood. So it seems that we understand one another within our disciplinary field. And of course, there's nothing problematic about it. And I'm going to talk more about why the digital age presents a new opportunity for us to write in a way that goes across both disciplines. And that's exactly what most universities are preaching. Most universities are now preaching what is called interdisciplinarity. But in that society goes beyond just saying we want it. There's a way through which we can achieve it by collapsing our field and collapsing our vocabulary so that others can understand what we mean. So the unconventional exposition of textual ideas will be considered remaining to be straight. So when some academics write to some department will say, I can't understand it. This is not history. This is not political science. This is not sociology. This is a transgression. This is not what we want. We can't get a PhD on this basis. And we know the implication. The implication is not just a critique. The implication is that the candidate would fail. Maybe fail their post-field or fail their pre-field or fail their exam. All departments and disciplines have particular language through which they're able to communicate with their colleagues. If we accept that the 21st century offers new ways of seeing the world, we should also recognize that it challenges everything we know about topics, recent topics, about writing styles, about how ideas are conceptualized. If all the evidence of obscene literature, print media, and social media that I presented about Shekin Olayijo again, who was the main protagonist of the first Yoruba novel, of the stories of Lagos Weekend, of the print culture of the Sun newspaper, all the way to the era of Big Brother Naija and Mary Modupe platform. If all these things tell us anything, it is the call for the audacity to write a history of the erotica and pornography in Nigeria. Waiting to be harvested are dozens of archival materials on the politics of nudity in Nigeria, and of course countless of nude acts that we consume, that we see almost every day. Critics of this type of topic would rely on some moralizing truth. Yes, there's going to be moralizing language. They would criticize potential authors for attempting to sensationalize. So this is the point I'm trying to make. Some topics are problematic. They challenge us to rethink ourselves. But if we accept that the 21st century is a difficult century, with the ideas, knowledge, information, then no topic is out of the table if we have data to do it. So what I've just said now, I've just provided a century of available data for anyone to write the history of the erotica. Now, the point we can then argue that what constitutes sensationalism? A topic of, for example, on the history of emotions would like, how do you study emotions? But you and I know that all this colonial literature, all the things we read from Achebe to Choyinka to all of them, this is emotion because they are pouring their emotions into text. So that is the way I would like to see. But the other point is talking about sensationalism. The biggest critique for innovative scholarship is sensationalism, in which scholars are accused of bringing up topics that are just too sensational. The argument I want to make is that in 1957, when Kenneth Dike told the entire world that we're going to write a new history of Africans, and this new history is going to be written from oral tradition, that was sensationalism. Without the guts, the audacity of a young man called Dike to go straight to his professors at the University of London and tell them, I will write a new history for Nigeria, and this new history is not going to be based on the data that you have presented. I will go to my village, collect large body of documents, and write the history of the Niger data from oral tradition. In 1957, it was sensational. And what is sensational is also revolutionary for that period. Nobody thought that Kenneth Dike can write a book or even a doctoral thesis in 1956, 1957 on Africa from oral tradition. In 1977, Professor Bola Adedawe critiqued a very large gathering of European women who were trying to homogenize women's spirits. She was really very angry. She was like, oh no, Yoruba women are not exploited like American women or European women. Our women were dignified people. Our women work so hard. Our mothers don't wait for their husbands to feed them. The idea of patriarchy, this unique European conception of exploitation of women, you Europeans brought it to us. That critique by Professor Bola Adedawe, for most people, was revolutionary because it challenged the notion that all women across the world experience the same forms of male authority and patriarchy. Similarly, in 1997, another professor called Oyeronke Oyewumi, she is the daughter of the reigning king of Umosho. She wrote a book called The Invention of Women. In that book, she was very angry again because it takes a lot of anger to make intellectual points sometimes, intellectual anger. She was like, no, in Oyo Yoruba tradition, gender is not about inferior or superior. Our women and mothers have their own roles, our men have their own roles, we come together, men can do the role of women. So in Ibadan, my own town, there is a goddess called Atage Olonwu. That is the goddess of the founding of the town. The worship of the goddess dresses like a woman. So the gender in Yoruba culture is flexible, allowing men to perform the role of women and allowing women to perform the role of men. What Oyeronke was trying to do in 1997 is to contest this idea that women of the world and gender context of the world is oppositional or binary within the context of good or bad. She argued that before Europeans came to Oyo Yoruba areas of Ibadan, Oyo, Osogbo, the idea of women being inferior to men did not exist. I have made all these examples to prove that the concept or the idea of sensationalism that we get as critique of revolutionary ideas in the 21st century in 2021 has a long history, and that if we become radical about the kinds of topics we write about. I have written a book on animals, and nobody thought it is possible to write a book on animals. In 1997, I went to Bayero University to give a lecture, and one of the audience was really very angry. History is about humans. We cannot write the history of animals. Animals don't talk. Because they don't talk, they don't make history. But maybe that is what you said. Our history is a product of what we do, as much as the product of what people say that we did. In 1850s, 1860s, 1870s, there were animals that were doing things that humans could not do. One of them is an animal called Lekewogbe. In fact, Lekewogbe was so powerful that he followed his master to one of the numerous wars of the 19th century. And he has a praise prayer. He is praised as Lekewogbe, Ajatugbe. Ajati Folioje, Okerejepo, Ajato Momoche, Tolom, Tosi Montebuya Kimale, Lekewogbe Guru Waye, Ọjọ́ kan, lọ́jọ́ tí Lekewogbe tẹ̀lé ọ̀gá rẹ̀ lọ sójú ogun, ó sojú Ikújẹ́yọ̀ olórí awo, ó sojú Òjó Òkèpè olórí ìmùlẹ̀. Bí Túbẹ̀ ṣe ń gbẹ́ bọ́ọ̀lù níwájú, bẹ́ẹ̀ ni Lekewogbe gbó tẹ̀lé, ó di kìrìkàtà, ó di kàràkìtì. Láwọn òkété bá pẹ́ jáde láti ní ìsà lọ́sàn-án Lekewogbe bá tẹ̀lé wọn ló bá tẹ̀kan lórí mọ́lẹ̀. Ìjẹ́ tó bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní ọmọ ẹjẹ́ ní Túbẹ̀ pariwo mọ́. Ó ní padà ṣé ìwọ ti gbàgbé ni pé ìran ajá kò gbọdọ̀ jòkété, ẹbọ ni Oníkòyí fi wọ́n rú, ẹbọ ni èso Oníkòyí fi wọ́n bọ̀. So a dog has a praise point. Dog has a praise point. Dog has a history. And maybe because the reason we think that maybe animals don't have history is because we are not checking the right data. We are not checking the right sources. We are not doing the right thing. So I wrote an entire book on the history of animals that's going to come out in a few weeks from now. So the point in emphasis is that revolutionary topics that younger academics do is a function of the revolutionary topics that senior academics did. The rebellion that is in the young academic is a function of the rebellion that was in the older academic. They taught us how to be rebellious because they laid the foundation of our audacity to say that certain forms of knowledge are legitimate and we have to write about them. If people don't have to accept the model, but with time the model will sell itself. So I believe that academic writing, regardless of level, is ideas. So I am on the editorial board of 11 international journals. I am the editor of the Journal of West African History. I am on the editorial board of many book series. I am president of the Lagos Province Association. I'm not citing this not to praise myself, but trying to justify some of the data I have. that the differences between the scholarship coming out from Ibadan, Ife, Elizade University, Fuda, is writing. It is not just that our colleagues don't have data. Our colleagues have data. The problem is rigor and writing. So at the end of the day, the difference between colleagues here and colleagues abroad is actually not about what is here, it's exposition of ideas. So for me, in the 21st century, we need to teach academic writing, how to write. Because I taught myself how to write. There's a way academic writing has to be done in the 21st century. One of the biggest critiques of 21st century writing or scholarship, again, is sensationalism. But what constitutes sensationalism is time specific. If we accept that our vocabulary has improved, I know professors of English here, Professor like they said, linguists agree that the words have improved, our vocabularies has changed, our word bank has increased, our daily conversations have expanded. This expansion is a way through which we have to accept that department must also accept that language writing, the way we write 20 years ago, is not the way we're going to write today. Because writing has to improve or change within the context of transformation in linguistic deployment, the way we use words. Again, this does not mean that those who wrote 20 years ago are not good writers. No. History is not about good or bad. History is the complications of situations. It's a paradox. So if we accept that our word bank has improved, we also have to accept our writing has to improve. And writing is not going to happen naturally. Writing is going to happen through deliberate self-improvement or teaching. So I think that academic writing is art, that it goes beyond just the ability to communicate knowledge. So if the Nigerian society itself is, so I think that the Nigerian society is moving faster than the models we are using to adopt to research it. Every day, new narratives, new people, new way of thinking, new development, new realization, new conceptualization of the world. I think that academics are not moving at a rate that is commensurate with the transformation of our society. And so one of the conversations we should be having in the 21st century has to go beyond the transformation in the way we harvest data, the way we conduct data and research, and the way we disseminate it, to the ways in which our society is moving faster than us. And this transformation itself has to be reflective. The best thinkers are those who can think about the future. So for now, we are actually not even in the present, because the models, our experience, our methodology, our theoretical framework are not in agreement with the contemporary transformations in the way society is moving. And every university is established to serve a particular humanistic function. When this university was established by Chief Adeojo, he wanted it to be humanistic. Science is useless if it's not having impact on humans. History has to have impact on human sociology. That's why institutions are established. So then if we don't have a carefully curated models to track the transformation of our society and match our methodology, our theoretical framework to meet the kinds of work we do, then we may not be fulfilling the missions of the founders of this university as much as other universities. So universities established in Nigeria since the beginning of this century, they market themselves as competitors. In other words, Elizade is competing globally. And if Elizade wants to compete favorably, Elizade has to adopt a model that is in agreement with global standard. This model includes, of course, teaching pedagogy, and this model also includes the intersections between research and teaching. The best teachers teach to strength. In other words, the best teachers teach what they research, because teaching is the manifestation of your own understanding of your own research. It doesn't mean that one cannot teach out of strength. I've taught classes I've never been trained to do. But how do we create a model that allows colleagues to teach to strength, which basically allows them to teach their research, not always teaching what is out of the books. I'm not always teaching what is in the books, what is in the research. Now, this is not unique to Elizade. This is not a critique of Elizade. No, it's not. I'm only trying to argue that one of the ways to promote quality scholarship is to promote quality teaching. And one way to promote quality teaching is to match research with teaching at the most intimate level. So I would like to summarize some of the things I've said, because I really want us to have conversation. I don't want to dominate the discussion. I like to be provocative, and when I was mentioning the questions of Big Brother Naija, Lagos Weekend, Better Lover Magazine, I'm trying to let younger people understand that there is a history to everything we consume today. Things happen before their own time. So the digital age is characterized by the way we harvest data, which includes virtual books, articles. Today, any academic cannot claim that they don't have access to a published book. It is wrong. You can't claim that anymore. If you don't have friends who are academic living abroad, you will have friends who are not academic. There is a public library. And in that public library, they can have access to any book. If they don't have the book, they will get it for you through what they call interlibrary law. So one of the gains of digital culture is that the argument that I don't have one book is not sustainable anymore. You can't argue it. And this is one of the most important gains of the digital age in research. It has also changed the kind of things we do. One of the most important gains of the digital age is the founding of a field known as digital humanities. The ways through which we're now using humanities digitally. But we also have to understand that in as much as we are lucky to have digital humanities, the theories of digital humanities, the people, the experience has to be organic for it to be true African digital humanity. In other words, everyone knows that the reason that most African countries are not having important voice in global knowledge production is that one people are trying to be Americans and three people are trying to be Europeans. Our own theories of African digital humanity has to be built right from the backyard. It has to be built from the community. It has to be built from Ilana Moki. We can build a theory of digital humanities from this campus and use that theory to engage global discourses. A research on digital culture of students of this university can be conducted and codified to speak to a global knowledge system. And that codification can form a basis or form part of the repertoire of knowledge. In other words, African digital humanity has the opportunity to grow from the local and have significant intellectual conversation with colleagues across the board. The best theories are not always from abroad. The best theories can come from Ilana-Moki. So one of the problematics of global knowledge production is the intersections with politics of knowledge itself, politics of agency. There is no reason why a scholar from this university cannot develop a model on digital humanity that can speak to a global knowledge system. So one of the gains of the digital age is global digital humanities. And this is an opportunity for us to build our own theory from within, not a theory imposed on us. It has also changed the methodology. So we now have online surveys, we now have crowdsourcing. An individual can be doing research. For example, the Lagos Studies Association website and Facebook, we have 5,000 followers. People will just post something that they're looking for a book. Before you knew it, someone has the book and they will send it to them. This has collapsed the idea of time. And this transformation has to be recognized within the context of global knowledge production. At the same time, there's expanded fellowship opportunities. 20, 30 years ago, for you to get fellowship opportunity, you have to be within the particular cycle. When the opportunity comes, you may not even find it. But today, digital culture has made it possible for people to have access to opportunities. And again, I'm not trying to advertise the Lagos Studies Association, but I will encourage you to check it out, to check the Facebook page out. Another point is about intercollaboration. So for them, it's now much more easy for scholars across the world to work a multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary model. Scholars in humanities, social sciences in different parts of the world. That's one of the gains of digital humanities. With all these things I've said about digital culture and age, I'm not suggesting that there's no problem. Part of the problem is infrastructural deficit. Just 2 months ago, we held the virtual conference of the Lagos Studies Association. We had 120 panels, and it was 5 days of conference. For that conference, we bought 10 brand new laptops for 300,000 naira each, making 3 million. We did everything possible. But we cannot control what is on the sky. We cannot control the internet. Because for you to control the internet, you have to be maybe the president of the country. So with all these preparations to have a virtual conference of over 600 people all over the world, something failed us, the internet. So we can continue to talk about the significance of the digital age in African knowledge production, but there's a lot of limitations. And part of the limitation is the infrastructural deficit. Another very sad implication of the digital culture model is plagiarism. Much more easy now to copy something from the internet, copy, cut and paste. And the speed with which we are able to write is interesting. But if we're not very careful, this speed is also hampered or affected by unethical academic culture such as plagiarism. Another question is going to be about relating research to teaching, pedagogy. The ways through which digital education should intersect with the kind of research we do. I would like to thank the Vice Chancellor, the Deans, I would like to thank all the graduate students for coming here. Thank you so much.
One of us, a great scholar of international standing, and of course he has justified that. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I've been asked also to introduce Obalola Ofuta, Professor Moses Aderinto. Can you see? That's what we want to kill. And of course, all the way from the University of Lagos, my brother, my friend, Professor Felix Waibu. Thank you very much for being here. And of course, from Nigerian State Direct, my publisher is there. Dr. Samuel will be here. Where are you from? With due respect, with the kind permission of the Vice Chancellor, Samuel Bieli is a graduate of Obafemi University from the Department of Economics. OEU does not have Department of Mass Communication yet, but you can see that almost 80% of editors and sub-editors in the Nigerian media today are products of Obafemi University. The Vice Chancellor has said that Elizade University is the greatest, and I agree with you. But the greatest derive its strength from the great. Put your hands together for our university. And from OEU again, we have Professor Wale Olombade. From FUTA, we have Dr. Anu Adebi. Also from FUTA, Dr. Ibrahima Obagai. Dr. Lawa Adebayo from OEU, thank you very much for being here. Acting under further instruction of the Dean of the Faculty, I'm asked to introduce the head department in the Faculty of Humanities, Social and Management Sciences of this university. Department of English, we have Professor Yemide Ramola. Thank you very much. And of course, the Department of Accounting and Finance, Dr. Moses Ololabi. Dr. Ololabi, where are you? Stand up, take a bow, sit down. Department of Business Administration, Dr. Martins Omarido. Department of Economics, and that is the Oga of the Day, Dr. Eric Olabisi. Department of Human Resource Management, Dr. Dubai Bolani. Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Dr. Carol Oboladi. From PFA, Department of PFA, Dr. Wale Adedeji. And of course, the Department of Mass Communication, Dr. Wole and Mr. Vice Chancellor, with due respect, permit me, let me hide under your authority, sir, to commit this bias. Dr. Aderinto, please stand up, sir. Please keep clapping for me. Make it much louder. Thank you very much. Don't worry, I'll sit down, sir. But before you sit down, sir, stand up. Take a bow to the Vice Chancellor. Take a bow to the Vice Chancellor. I've just introduced you to the Vice Chancellor as a senior colleague. Sit down. The Department of History and International Relations, Dr. Taiwo Aderinto. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the next assignment is for the Vice Chancellor of this great university, and I want to plead passionately.
Of today for a job well done. I think it deserves as I said earlier on, today is Ife Day. And I don't want to be tempted to accept the notion that Elizade University is an extension of Ife. Just like we used to have UI of Ife, UI of Jos, UI of Lagos, UI of Abeokuta, because those who founded those universities, they migrated from UI. Even though majority of staff in the Elizade University also migrated from not UI. So we want to sincerely appreciate you, because that informs your every presence and your function. So the theme of the lecture remains research and scholarship in humanities and management sciences in the digital age. So let me quickly recapitulate some of the highlights of the lecture, because there are some statements which will be of interest to you, which I just want to mention. This is the pre-digital age in the era of the print media, when we used to communicate through Daily Times and all other media. Then he expressed the major concerns on social media, which includes infiltration into privacy and false news and reports, which are not good to us these days. However, we talked about the advantages, which include connecting old friends, ability to share pictures and various information. And he mentioned that academics not using social media are living in the stone age and missing a lot of information about people and cultures. For example, we have WhatsApp, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, Telegram, Twitter. In fact, there was a president of the United States that was known for tweeting. The president before him did not enjoy the ability to use those forms of social media. And that he also said, digital age is only a phase in human civilization. We don't know what will happen in the next 20 years. And that new markets will always drive away the old. And knowledge creation is a continuum, because there are new developments about accessing knowledge creation digitally. He also mentioned that literature can exist in digital forms, that is to showcase creativity. He went on to say that digital age is characterized by the high speed of sharing information, even though it has its own imperfections. He also spoke about sensationalism in writing, and we need to teach academic writing. The way we write today is different from the ways we wrote 20 years ago, because there are new narratives and new conceptualizations. So he opined that every university was established to serve a humanistic function, and each university is to develop its own pedagogy or pedagogical model to fulfill its mission. And to promote quality scholarship, you must promote quality teaching. And the research on the digital culture of this university, I mean Elizade University, can sell on the global stage, having evolved from the local setting at Ilaramoke. Kudos to our founder. And he rounded up by highlighting the problems of the digital age, which include infrastructural deficit and plagiarism. We have the problem of cut and paste, which is a major problem in academia these days. So on that note, I think I want to congratulate the lecturer for a job well done. I think he deserves. Now the stage is open. The floor is open for questions from the yes. So the first question, let's say number one is Professor Gramola. Number two, HOD International Relations. The University Librarian is number three. Number four, Professor Fadayomi. And number five, Chief Duile. I just know your number. Number six. Okay, number six. Any seven, I'm going to stop on 8. Okay, let's see number one.
Members of the high table and our visitors and students. Professor Saheed Aderinto, I'm very proud of you and I'm happy for the lecture. You have traversed research methodology, theoretical work, in writing, and you dwell a lot on language, which is my field. I have many questions, I'll ask only one. Your mention of writing on WhatsApp has been my concern as a teacher. If you see what happens today on WhatsApp messages, a lot of people pretend to write English the way they write it on that medium because they don't know any English at all. And my inaugural lecture 2019, August 21, is about the English language in Nigeria and discourses of life and death. I believe the English language is dying very fast in Nigeria, and we are going to be in trouble. My question, sir, how will you advise me as a teacher to guide our students to write formal English, even on WhatsApp, rather than writing the kind of English that I cannot read? And people hiding under the canopy of no English at all on the WhatsApp messages.
I want to appreciate you for the robust lecture. But my question is, if there is anything I've taken out of this lecture, it is the dialectics between emotionalism and sensationalism, which you also call provocative research. My question is, as a young academic, I experienced a difficulty during my PhD research because I decided to go into an area of political science that is not too popular, which is geopolitics. And specifically, I did my PhD on the politics of flood. And people said, but basically, what is the politics behind flood management? I was labeled as a geographer, as a disaster scholar, and the likes. But eventually, about 2 people in the department saw the light in what I was doing and encouraged me. And eventually today I'm happy because the research has received recognition from the lead agency in Nigeria as a Nobel contribution to research. I want you to please advise young academics. How can we navigate this troubled water? Particularly, we have academics which I can call emotionalists that are always averse to innovations. They are always averse. They are status quo driven. How do we navigate such problems? Thank you, sir.
Because I have my job to be nice to respond to this. So the first question by Professor I think that there's 2 ways to look at it. One, when I'm reading all those bad expressions on WhatsApp, I'm collecting data. I'm trying to understand the mind frame of my students. So it's good. So one of the advantages of actually being on social media is to know the sociality of our students. To even know, we can't teach them well if we don't know their thought pattern or process. And writing is a channel through people communicate their thought. Now, for me, I would then say that these forms of writing would not give you a job, would not make you globally competitive, would not do you anything. So I think that it is problematic that most undergraduates cannot complete a sentence. In fact, one of the reasons I don't give my WhatsApp number out to younger people is how they text message, how they send text messages. Boom, boom, boom. It's like, you can't even compose a mail. Compose. And it gets me really very angry. So it's like, if you cannot compose basic email, dear sir, my name is this. I'm contacting you because I have this problem. Do you want help me sincerely? They write your name, your last name. So the problem, the crisis of the digital age is the crisis of communication itself. And I agree with you, Prof. But the other point is to say that problem would actually be able to have conversation about the things they should be doing. In other words, no institution will give you an admission for masters if you cannot compose basic English. And so that's the way I would say. So on the one hand, I think for me, I'm gathering data on digital communication from the youth perspective. You see, in historical writing now, they want us to start from the present. The reason history is appearing not relevant is because we're not writing relevant things. History is one of the most dynamic fields. There's no field that is not interesting. It's the way we package and explain what we are doing to people. And even people who are studying plant science, people say, what are you studying in plants? But if you explain the fact that plants give us the energy that we breathe in, many people will understand. So in contemporary 21st century, right, the reason history appears to not be marketing is because we are not teaching it in a marketable format. So that if we want to engage the past, why don't we engage the past from the present? And we cannot understand the present if we are not on those platforms with our students. That's just honest truth. We have to be there with them. We may not communicate and participate. We don't even have to participate. But we need to understand the social psychology of these 18, 16-year-old people that they are sent to us to mentor and to teach. So that is the way. And the second part of it, apart from that data gathering and teaching, is to also be a way to teach. You say, this way they are written. Whether the question of English, the idea of trying to trivialize good English is going on digitally. But today, you can win a grant. A simple proposal. Even some people cannot write a proposal to their uncle. Their uncle is a multi-billionaire. I said, don't get me a proposal for 500 million, I'll just give you some change. And you can't even write a proposal. Even if your father is the nicest man in the world and you cannot compose a proposal, then it's not going to work. That's the way I'm seeing. So the question on topics, I think one of the challenges that we have as younger people is the way we position our ideas to older senior people. Sometimes the way we position will be confrontational. And that is the point I was making earlier. That knowledge is going to continue. And the past is as important as the present. Our methodologies is not going to remove the older methodologies out of vogue. They will always be relevant. Because without reference to those older methodologies, we cannot build our own methodologies. So if we have a new and novel idea, the question is not going to say, did you know that everything we have been doing is a piece of nonsense? That is not how to argue now. The question is going to say, did you know that what you have done is very important? However, why are we not looking at different? I think language matters. I think the confrontational manner in which we write our proposals, our doctoral proposals, suggests to older scholarship that what we want to do is going to change this world. It's only going to change for a while anyway, because 10 years from now, people are going to study fraud, not only for the political economy or patronage, they may be studying fraud maybe for the question of maybe emotion. And they will render everything you said like really secondary. And the question is that without reference to you, they cannot be their own. So the point is that I mentioned in my lecture, there is an anxiety that each time we have new topics, those topics would make existing ones irrelevant. Not make us work that way. And I think the way we write our research proposals at the doctoral level is why senior scholarship appears to be a field. There's no inferiority or superiority in knowledge. Because without the so-called inferior old way, you cannot put your own. So one way is to say, one, I recognize the profundity of existing scholarship on patronage politics. I recognize the work of, for example, Olutayo sociology, talking about patronage and politics of Aderinto. However, can we engage with patronage from the perspective of law? Language matters. And that's why I say language is art, and academic writing is art. If we don't teach academic writing as a form of art, we may be using words that suggest to some bodies of knowledge as useless. No body of knowledge is useless. Even the worst methodology has something to teach us about how to do it later. The other point also is about the kind of exposures we're talking about. I think is based on what I think I know, networks of scholars interested in your field, seminars to invite senior scholars to engage with. This is what we think we can do. For example, I just spoke about sexuality. I wrote the first book on prostitution. But the question is to say, did you know that prostitution is not just about things that immoral men and women do? It actually has to do with politics of time, leisure, political economy of daily life, morality, spirituality. By the time you expose the non-stereotyped perspective of a particular model, then that thing goes away from something that is unknown, which is the fear, to something that is familiar. That's the way I would say.
I appreciate the lecturer, great lecture, very excellent, and seminar. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I was wishing you would not stop. Having said that, I want to appreciate the transformation of knowledge and the global knowledge production, as you mentioned. And the fact that it's now a black world, and we cannot go from it. We are not circulating myths in the name of digital ethnography, and we cannot have evidence for such knowledge. And I do know that in the social sciences, that first concepts and conceptualization must be globally accepted. For example, if I say dog, it invokes the same picture with everybody. But if you now decide to say, okay, in Africa, dog means cat, and it means something else, so they are very disconnected. So the standardization that once you have a concept is globally acceptable, and they are standard regulating all those things. And again, demonstrable and verifiable claims that are subject of or capable of application is the ground norm for social science research. So if we now come to a situation where we can now generate things that we don't have evidence to substantiate, and other group outside from Africa cannot follow the same pattern and be able to access such knowledge and replicate it, then we are having an issue. So that's my concern, that yes, the digital world is real and the transformation is continuous, but we must guide that there are standards. If the old is the new way, the new one is emerging, standard has to increase again, so that standard is recognized and is also mediating accuracy and authenticity. Thank you.
The politics of standard is a problematic one, because we know that over the years, scholars from North America and Europe have basically determined what constitutes standard. it goes back to the point I made earlier. There's no reason why a colleague from this university cannot write a paper on digital culture of Elizade students. Develop some models and use that model to speak to global ideas of student culture and youth culture and insert it legitimately. So standards are important, but who is determining the standard? Some of us are tired of models that are always coming from abroad because we know that international models have this agency to determine what is legitimate, not legitimate. But even right in Nigeria, from this village, if it's a town, there's no reason we cannot have homegrown standard. We provide some form of evidence to back it up, justify it, and make it legitimate as a global standard. So, for example, I do digital ethnography. I make phone calls, but yesterday I was at the place for an interview with the Fuji artist, ethnography, throughout yesterday. So, digital ethnography does not eliminate regular ethnography. But the idea of what constitutes global standard itself is very, very problematic. I just rendered the principle of Lake one day. When I go abroad to give my lectures, it's a combination of Yoruba and English. Certain words cannot be expressed in English. It's not just going to be possible. I will make proverbs and all this. Now, the reason is that what constitutes standard will be a function of who is saying it. It is standard because Europeans are staying, mostly men. Standard can be from anybody, even from this village of Naramoki. That's the way I would say. This can be a very contentious question. One of the reasons, based on what Dr. Uga was saying, she was saying a lot of things about my own understanding of mentorship. What I'm passionate about is that what constitutes authenticity and global intellectual visibility is flexible. And there is no reason that young Nigerian academic cannot have a voice in global production of knowledge by not allowing standard to be defined by a bunch of people who are abroad simply because who are able to say this is right based on the politics of location and of course race and gender. That's the one.
I want to add another important issue to what we have said about academic writing and the digital age. And what I want to add is the digital generation. I wouldn't have spoken after Professor Damola has spoken. We're on the same page. But maybe I should explain my idea slightly differently. Over the years, I've been teaching for so many calendars. And what I've observed is there's a big dislocation between my students and myself in terms of communication. When I'm teaching economics or demography, I have to spend a lot of time using synonyms, explanations of a simple sentence, because myself and the new generation are not on the same platform in terms of communication. This is a big problem. And what I've observed from the social media, just like the brilliant lecturer has observed, is that the language is different from mine. And if we also borrow from you the word audacity, normally, when you look at the fact that these children, they have a lot of intelligence. It may not be academic intelligence. Some of them are better than we are in terms of emotional intelligence. And that is why you see that they have very short sentences and very short time, even to answer questions that will last 3 hours. They can't write long answers. And one of the problems that I've observed over the calendars is that these children are using what you and I will call pidgin English. They cannot read a text from the West, because in all my references, a lot of them can't even understand them properly because of these differences in communication, maybe we should borrow your word, audacity, to start to teach them in pidgin English.
All protocols are done. Thank you, Mr. Lecturer. We enjoyed you. I'm a journalist by profession, and I'm a lecturer here at the Department of Mass Comm. I want you to distinguish between journalistic writing and academic writing. I'm saying this because a journalist, a professional journalist, a trained journalist who veers into academia, sooner or later we learn the culture of the academic language and we write according to what we desire. But in journalism, it's a big field. You have the news reporters who operate in the newsroom, dishing out, processing news from occurrences in society, and performing what I call information function. They inform. But the educative aspect of journalism is in editorial governance, feature writing, column writing, etc. Are you saying, because I quoted you here, that writing techniques have changed along with the ongoing contemporary evolution in communication? What would you recommend that we change in writing editorials in the newspapers, in writing pictures in the newspapers, in writing comments, in writing narratives, in column writing? Because these are the areas that are heavily depended upon by the society to educate them and to inform them adequately. I want to hear you, sir.
In the many departments of history, one of the biggest critiques of student writing is you are too journalistic. You know, you are too journalistic. And it's also very annoying sometimes to journalists because it suggests that you are too simple, too unsophisticated, too unproblematic. So we know what constitutes academic writing across humanities. Review of existing literature, what has been done earlier. So you start by saying existing scholarship on female genital cutting as focused on the aspect of immorality. I want to look at the aspect of emotions and the long impact. That's one argument. The second argument is that the evidence that is used are based on evidence from abroad or from Kenya. My own is going to be based on the one from Nigeria. So by the time you justify location, you justify argument, you justify existing literature, you are already combating ordinary ideas in the body of knowledge. And at that level is no more journalistic by all standards, because it's already tapping or it's already speaking to a well-defined frame of knowledge, and it's already knowledge. For journalistic writing, we all know that you don't even have to present evidence, no footnotes, no endnote, no reference, and no order. The other part of it is the way you insert yourself into it. In academic writing, you want a form of detachment that allows you to report data. After all, academic writing is supposed to be objective. In journalistic writing, no. Opinions are personal. You insert yourself, you make yourself known. Today, in current global knowledge production, our writings must be accessible to the public. That is what universities are asking for. No matter how brilliant you are as a political scientist, if you cannot domesticate your narrative to regular people to understand, maybe there's a problem. It doesn't mean your work is not good. Let us investigate. So the only way to domesticate is to remove certain vocabularies and jargons that makes us appear like people that came from heaven. So once we remove those discourses, we remove words like discourses, we remove words like theoretical things, words that are not accessible to the public, then we can actually migrate academic writing into public writing. Now, I wouldn't like to call it journalistic writing. I would like to call it public writing. Because we know journalism is focused for the public. So one of the things I started doing with my project of Fuji is to actually take Fuji away from the public thing, this kind of negative music of miscreant and whatever, into something that can be codified into knowledge. But the only way to do it is not to then demystify it with academic language that is not accessible. I think the best way to do it is to present complex ideas in a consolidated format. This is my own philosophy about writing. If you know something to the extent that you cannot domesticate it for regular people to understand, you don't know it enough. It's simple. And one thing that what you call journalistic writing does is to help us have in mind that this thing that we're producing, this knowledge that we're producing, should be accessible to people beyond the field of history. So that if my friend who is a physicist or a chemist loves to read history, he can read what I've written without necessarily taking the dictionary. That's part of it. So for me, I don't think there's a debate over the difference. We know the difference between what I would like to call it journalistic, because it's a very derogatory term when they say something is journalistic. They've used it forever in private for good opportunities. You can even fail a doctoral defense because it's journalistic. And it's a stereotype. It means it's not deep. It means doesn't have evidence. It means it's not structured. It means it's too sensational, it's too personal. And that is not going to work. So the difference, as we know, is that in academic writing you are removing. But now, even in academic writing, there's a way you can insert yourself without necessarily making it sound simple. One of the assumptions about academic writing is that for it to be respected as a body of cogent knowledge, it has to be complex to read, and the sentences construction has to be complex to discern. Writing has gone beyond that level. Contemporary global knowledge production in the best journals, in the best university presses, because all these presses are ranking abroad, which is not related to most people, communicate to a broader audience. It's about market. The journals don't get money from you to publish. They are not related journals. All the books I've published, I've never paid a dime to the publisher. For them to sell the book, it has to appeal to multiple audience. And that is why what we call journalistic then comes in. How do you break down complex theoretical framework of political science for a 200-level student to enjoy? It's art. So when I say writing is art, what I'm saying is, can you write in a way that is fascinating, that people will enjoy? The transition from one paragraph to another, the way you call on your evidence, because what is journalistic is a claim that doesn't have evidence. They say it's journalistic. Academic writing can also follow a model that says, I will present this. In 2021, something happened. Scholars will say, give us evidence. They will give evidence. The next thing, we theorize. We try to make sense of it. We unpack. The unpacking is when we make 2 or 3 sentences to make sense of an entire paragraph. Many of the best journalists will say, what is missing in their work is the notes, footnote, reference. So, in a nutshell, because of time, I would encourage people to find the notion of journalistic writing. It's derogatory. I don't think it's right for anybody to say it. We need what they call public writing by academics who can use their experience, their rigor, to make sense of a problem facing society and communicate it in a way that a 200-level student or a 100-level student who is 16-year-old can present. And in contemporary global knowledge system, we are communicating across people. If you are an anthropologist and I cannot read your work, it's useless. So people are saying that if you are even in, let's say, in psychology, can you write something that I would enjoy? So the current field is collapsing vocabulary in ways that those vocabularies can be expressed for non-specialist students. If you cannot write for non-specialists in 21st century, there's going to be a limit to where you can go in global knowledge theory. That's what's going on.
For most of the points raised while responding. My question is very simple. It's on practical research. What would be your recommendation to students and to even lecturers on research for them to be acceptable and competitive in the global labor markets? because I want to take an instance like when you are informed level of an idea, you have research. Most students see research as a way of boosting their GPA. But on getting to the labor market, you mentioned something about proposal. You see that most people find it difficult to write ordinary proposal. And it will be for some students until when you engage them. Like what my brother just said about journalistic writer, as I said, thank you for calling it public writing. How do you think that students and even lecturers can improve on research so that we can have innovations and then make Nigerian private or Nigerian universities highly competitive? Because it's a major problem for those of us that
a 20-year-old kid, we call them kids in the United States, even though they are not kids. Because I'm sorry if you guys feel small, but they're not kids. So a 20-year-old kid wants to write a project. The first conversation is this: this thing we've asked you to write is not punishment. Number one, you are not being punished. This thing we're asking you to write goes beyond grade and letter grades. So why is this paper or project more than letter grade? Or why is it not a punishment? Can I do without it? Well, you cannot do without it because you have to do it to get to graduate. Listen, there is nothing you will do when you graduate from Elizade that will not involve research. And if your project is the beginning of a world of endless research. So the best researchers are the ones that can reconcile differences. So you want to buy something, you are looking at different prices. You are looking at variables, location of those prices, colors, size, width, strength, durability. That is research. It's not that complicated. So this application of your project, if your lecturer says, write a project on market women in Ilaramoki for your BE. Questioning, interpreting questions, writing it, making deductions are core attributes of a decent human that must function in a decent society. Whether you like it or not, you have to do research. So the way I'm trying to convince my own students to do research is to say that this research is not punishment, and this research can actually provide you with competent skill applicable in all human settings from today till the end of time. And again, going back to social media, because you know their frame of mind, they can begin to say, okay, fine, you want to buy something on the internet, different prices. Somebody say, oh, this thing is for 2,000 naira. Another person say this is for 1,000 naira. Your research mind should ask you, where is the 1,000 naira coming from? If the 1,000 naira is coming from Abuja, you have to pay for the distance, 3,000. The 2,000 naira is coming from Lagos. This is basic application of research. So for me, I think that to make research easy for undergraduates is to let them understand that it is not punishment, and that whether they like it or not, they will have to make inquiries. And the core element of research is findings, and it is applicable in all structure. The second part, writing. If you don't plagiarize and you can compose simple words that are interconnected and make intelligible sense, you will need this skill forever. It is not just a skill for grade, for proposal writing. There is no field you will find yourself after graduating that you won't have to write. You have to write. There's nothing to do about it. So the practical way of making writing and research interesting to students is to first demystify the whole idea that it is punishment. Two, to say that it's beyond grade. To say that everything you do when you graduate will require making inquiries. And research is nothing but finding out something. So the question about academics, I think that the question of relevance for research and practicality is finding your own interest. I've always loved to do things that makes me happy. And I think the first question of practical is, does it make you happy? What does it really do to you? I think research has to go beyond what we do to get promotion, what we do to get a PhD. And I think one of the most proud things about me is I figure out very early in my career to do stuff that I enjoy. And so that when I'm working, I'm actually not even working. So Dr. Uga came to my field. She came to observe me do research yesterday. I came in yesterday, went straight to do research among Fuji artists. I did what they call group interview. She observed me for 1.5 hours and I was explaining to her the difference between digital ethnography and radio ethnography. So and we were speaking, and the first point she asked me, how did you get so deep into their community like that? How did you start communicating with them? I said I was speaking in Yoruba, too. I was wearing a short knicker, I was wearing a t-shirt, and I was explaining to them the basic language, and before you understood me. I enjoy this kind of research. So the practical form of research is to say you enjoy it. Not donor-driven research. Donor-driven research is research you conduct because there's money in it. So you don't want to jump on all call for papers. There's call for paper here. There's call for paper here. There's free money to go to conference here. When you do that, you are not harmonizing your intellectual energy to function in a coherent form. Another is the building block. You don't want to article on this, you don't want to article. Now it's not a problem. You can write 3 articles on different things, but you have to harmonize them so that they can function. But if you put that article that both of them are going in different directions, it's going to be problematic. So the simple answer I would say is that do you find it interesting? Do you enjoy it? And I think enjoyment is the first important factor when it comes to doing it. That's the practical advice I would give.
I've called them triplets because you have to put them together because they are siblings. Humanities, social and management sciences. After all, what's industrial relation or human resource management? The mother is sociology and the father is psychology. What's politics or international relations? The father is history. Is it mass comm we want to talk about? It originates from English language, management or business administration. It's economics, applied economics. Accounting is modified arithmetic. So you can go on and on. So I want to thank the faculty for generating this discourse, this stimulating discourse and conversation that we have had today. And on your behalf, I thank Prof Aderinto for being up to the task. So it deserves one. So let me now invite the PRO to complete his assignment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please let's give it to the last one. Some people were saddled with the responsibility of organizing this program. Here to the Vice Chancellor, who has a lot of academics at heart. Let's put hands together for the Vice Chancellor. Present. I want to call the chairman of the local organizing committee, Dr. Babatunde, to please come forward.
Of our 2021 guest lecture on the Faculty of Humanities, Social and Management Sciences. Thank you very much. And we would like as faculty to thank God for making this day a success. And we want to also thank the senior management of Elizade University, comprising of our Vice Chancellor, I finally call him my Vice Chancellor. Can I kindly just mention names again? Distinguished Professor Olukayode Amon. Can we please celebrate our Vice Chancellor? Thank you so much. We want to also thank our amiable registrar for honoring our invitation to. Thank you very much, sir. We also want to thank the University Librarian. Thank you, Dr. Christopher Kiko, for coming. Thank you very much. Let me especially thank this gentleman because he's the one that makes us to smile at the end of the month as staff when we get our alerts. And that's the bossa of the university. Thank you for coming, sir. We really appreciate you. And indeed, we thank the senior management for even giving us the permission as a faculty to hold this very first faculty guest lecture. We thank you so much, sir. We want to especially thank the guest lecturer, Professor Saheed Aderinto, for the insightful, thought-provoking lecture. I believe that there are many highlights and many takeaways for us that we have all benefited from. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation. And as a faculty and as a university, we express our profound gratitude. And we believe that you will not hesitate in the nearest future to honor our future invitations. Thank you so much, sir. Kindly permit me to also recognize and thank especially the father of the faculty and friend of all. That is Professor J.A. Fabayo. And the family actually call him Fabio. Thank you so much. Can we please celebrate Thank you so much for actually conceiving this idea that it's time for us to have our first faculty guest lecture, which is obviously a reality today. We thank you so much, sir, for being a pace setter and for being a worthy example of good leadership to us all in the faculty. Maximum respect, sir. Thank you very much. We also want to thank all our important guests for honoring our invitation. The Vice Chancellors, their representatives, the DVCs, and every other important dignitaries that time will fail to permit me to start mentioning names again. We are indeed very grateful that out of a very busy schedule you created some time to be in Lara or in DC and our prestigious university, Elizade University. Thank you for coming. Can we please celebrate? Yes. Thank you very, very much. I also want to thank all our heads of departments in the faculty. I want to thank all the angels, the units of the university and I want to thank our postgraduate students and our undergraduate students that are around for actually attending the guest lecture. Thank you very much. And in conclusion, please kindly permit me to mention and thank very specially the members of the local organizing committee of this guest lecture. I didn't do it alone. Please just kindly permit me to mention their names. We have that's the members of the conference, seminars, and workshops committee. That is Dr. Adesui. Are you around, please? Can you stand up? Dr. Adesui, thank you so much as one of our members. Miss Anita Adidu, if you're around, thank you very, very much. Dr. Mede, thank you so much. Thank you very much. And my new secretary, Dr. Omola Olani. Thank you very, very, very much. Thank you so much for doing all the hard work. I, as the chairman, I was just there to consolidate all their efforts. They actually did all the hard work, put this program together. Thank you very, very much. If you all enjoyed this guest lecture, can we all say aye? Aye. If you think otherwise, can you say nay? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
And after that, we take the second stanza of the national anthem, O God of creation, direct and open. This program, the lecture series of Humanities, Social and Sciences. Thank you, Mr. T. And we come to the end of this program. Nobody was washed out of the penny. Say, thank you, Father. Be exalted in Jesus' name. Amen. Lord, you brought us here safely. Father, we pray as we go about the different destinations, we take God back safely in Jesus' name. Amen. Every evil and great Lord, I pray we will remove in Jesus' name. We pray, Father, for this school to go to grow higher and higher in Jesus' name. Thank you, Father, for we pray in Jesus' name. The second stanza, the national prayer, O God of creation. We can sing this.